If you want to space out with IWC, Chris is going to tell you how.
Got 3 watches for you. We've got the Ventura vertical drive space watch, we've got the Perpetual Calendar ProSet, and we've got the Ceralume fully luminous watch.
Don't go anywhere, people. Ladies and gentlemen, you may know this man as CEO of IWC.
Hey.
I'm going to tell you got it all wrong. He's a comedian.
No.
What did you just say when we were getting ready here?
I said I'm going to make some space for you.
You said let's create
This is dad
space.
jokes. This is when my daughter goes, God, you're so not funny.
The IWC booth every year is just, it's like a translocation experience. We are now in space. Which of the watches do you in your heart want to open with? Because we have some wild watches this year. Do you want to start with the one that was on Drew Feustel's wrist, just to tie it all together?
I think we'll have to, Andrew.
I think we have to.
I guess, being in a full space station environment here,
Yeah.
I think it's the right one to go for.
Tell me about it, because it is bringing back to me, because again, you might look at this and say, this is not IWC's design language. I think you're forgetting about the Ocean 2000. There have been many periods where you've played with this sort of design language, but tell me, how does this fit in?
Yeah, that's, I think, exactly that. I mean, just jump right in. I think it's interesting that by really working with our partners at VAST and really creating the first time a purpose-designed watch for the demands of modern spaceflight, really seeing that a design resulted that was sort of a bit removed from IWC, a bit removed from what VAST originally wanted, meeting in the middle, and then you see really that tool watch identity coming through. And you're right, a bit of Porsche design, a bit of Ocean 500, the DNA is there. It's a quintessential tool watch, it's super reduced, super pure, but it is forward-looking, it's not based on anything, and that was really the brief here. I think the first 9 watches we sent to space, starting all the way back in 2021, they were all reconfigured pilot's watches, and essentially that's a design from the 1940s, right? The pilot's chronograph being based on the original Mark 11. And now 90 years of pilot's watches legacy, we thought, really, let's make a purpose-built new design called the Ventura that is really unique to spaceflight. And we've gone for something really fluid and really something that fits into the design language of this much more exciting sort of civilian, commercial, scientific, and governmental space age. And then going with something that is a crownless design, all functions operated via the bezel, making sure that when you're working your way around a zero-gravity space, you're not catching anything, you're not cutting through any materials, you don't want to damage a space station. And then being able, also if your hand is gloved, if you're in a pressurized suit, you'll still be able to activate the bezel, which, fiddly with the pushers, you just can't do.
I want to reiterate that point, because like you, before I learn about the watches, I process them the way you are processing them on the other side of the screen here on YouTube. You are thinking, that's weird, this looks just like some sort of biomorphic rubber strap thing, and I bet there's a lot of unneeded novelties. I bet there's like a bezel-operated winding system that has no benefit in space. All of these things are there, but I was just standing right here with an astronaut, and he said, so what we gave IWC was a list of all the things that we would like a traditional watch to be easier for us. And that made me think, okay, I reframed the watch. I then I could feel myself going, that's pretty cool. And then when we traded watches, he said, I feel less cool in this. And I was like, I feel more cool in yours. And suddenly I want a bloody space watch.
Yeah, it's a little bit that process, I think, as well. I think in the beginning, when we arrived at our Crownless design, when we had the briefing about the purity they wanted in the dial, it's something that felt quite strange to us. But then I saw the thing that really did it for me was not only seeing in the context of the spacesuit, but also seeing that domed sapphire and suddenly seeing that atmospheric kind of curvature and seeing that space helmet and understanding that the purity that form brings. And then I really started to like it. And it's a process, a process for me as well. But I think what it does, like you say, I think we had so much of vintage design and things that are really based in the past.
Yes.
And now we have a new space age where future is actually something quite optimistic, right?
Yeah.
You see a much kinder, much more human-centric, much more inclusive. And also when you see in the recent space missions that are ramping up now, it's becoming a lifestyle platform. A similar thing we see in Formula One. Suddenly it's like, oh, I want the plushie, I want the sneakers. What are they wearing? How are they living?
The only good news that's happened in the world in the last how many years?
Yeah, and I think
the Artemis mission, the mix of people on that mission, the way that press release was run, the wholesomeness of it, it was.
If you imagine, that first human being that's going to be in contact with that proof point of biological life of Earth, in the hopefully not too distant. I mean, Drew is convinced it's on Mars if you start digging. So just imagine, there'll be that point for humanity that is just universally exciting. And I think this really is a much better forward-looking message to focus on and really for us also to develop a watch upon.
I'm being a cynic, and I know you can take this.
Yeah, sure.
IWC, another brand getting into space all of a sudden.
Yeah.
What's the authenticity? What's the genuine connection? Why would you I know you don't like to play in areas where there are others. You've got quite a few now.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't know what's coming before from others. So this is last year, that one, it happens sometimes. But I think what was really essential to us is when we started on the professional aviation project properly in 2017, through all the test pilots, we came across the first astronauts really quickly. And Thomas Pesquet was our first astronaut contact, who we really got to know, a good friend of Charles's. And that was really our first opportunity to send that Le Petit Prince big pilot, the Perpetual Calendar, up to the International Space Station as our first watch in space, quite recent. And then the 2 crewed missions of Inspiration 4 and Polaris Dawn with Jared Isaacman. And as you're working your way through the aviation community, you meet more and more people from the space environment. And that's really when it became really, okay, let's do something that is specific to this industry. Let's expand our language there. And then, of course, it's a long process to get there. And then in the end, partnering with VAST, learning the time scale, settling on this year, this all happened long before. So it's sometimes, our planning horizons are so long, you don't always control. But space is a interesting, exciting new frontier, and I really think it's starting to build momentum now. And I think how popular it is right now in fashion, in apparel, and watches just showcases that as well.
Speaking of popularity, Marcus, you spin around. I mean, I like to think of us as popular people, Chris, but are they here for us?
Good question. I guess so.
We've done many interviews. We've never drawn a crowd quite like this. Look,
might be George Russell actually. Who draws the crowd?
Oh, George! Bring George out. Bring George out. Come on.
15 minutes.
I was feeling so good about that. My next question is: the Ceralume seems to play into the story quite well. We've got this kind of
light and dark, right?
Light and dark. Tell me about the technology in this and how were you the first to crack it? Because a fully loomed watch, including case, is just such a party trick on the wrist, the ultimate.
And it's hard to do. So really, our interest in ceramics goes right back to the 1980s. We're always interested in these tougher performance materials, titanium, ceratanium, ceramics. And really, when I visited Tritech, the company behind Superluminova, for the first time, I saw them actually sintering Superluminova. And I thought, this is
which
really...
is cooking, right?
Yeah, this is quite similar. Yeah, it's a heat treatment, which is very similar. It's a powder material that's being compressed and then being heat treated in the sintering process. And I looked at it and I thought, this should be similar to ceramics. And I said, wow, it's very brittle, it's very porous, it fractures easily, it's not got a great consistency, and Superluminova is always applied as kind of a paint finish or something like that. It's printed. And then we looked into it, and then our apprentice challenge, our young watchmakers really picked it up and tried to make a ceramic that is luminous through and through. Yes. This is really where the difficulty starts.
Your apprentice comes in.
So we do an apprenticeship challenge every year. So our final year apprentices, they take on a watch project.
Yeah.
They get a theme from us and they work in teams of 2 and they have to make 2 functioning watches and a whole presentation and a marketing concept. And they came with a Ceralume idea in the end in its final guise. And they were machining this case all the way to the half hour before the presentation. And they came in with a broken case and said, "We're so sorry, Chris. It snapped again. But here is 3/4 of a case." And I was so touched by the energy and their excitement that we said, okay, let's industrialize it. Again, normally when you see luminous materials, it's either plastics or it's a composite plastic resin material with something inserted.
Yes.
This is a pure architectural material, ceramics all the way through that is fully luminous. And the result, I think, is just stunning.
It's cool. And it shoots so well. Pick one more. Pick one more from this whole...
We've got to talk about the Perpetual Calendar ProSet.
Yes.
Right? Because this is really, you're wearing one on your wrist. This is the Perpetual Prince edition, 43 millimeters. Now, again, perpetual calendars, all the way since the mid-1980s, Kurt Klaus inventing an ingenious module that is robust, that is wearable, and that is only controlled via the crown. Mm-hmm. But it was a lever and pole-based system coming out of the date information in the movement. And that meant you can't actually, like most perpetual calendars, wind them backwards at all across the date line. Yeah. And we completely re-engineered this calendar now to have a fully synchronized, fully geared system, which is infinitely windable forward and backward, quick adjustment and regular time adjustment. Has a 4-digit year display, fully on discs, all the way to 2,799, no more century slider, and a double moon phase that is now accurate for 1,044 years, rather than the 500 and something years we had in the other perpetual calendar. So this, totally user-friendly. You can put 6,000 RPM, that's 100 revolutions a second on the crown, and it won't desynchronize.
Wow.
And that's just a highly wearable, really, really beautiful execution of that PPC.
I feel pretty damn cool with this on. You can choose whether you go this cool or whether you go the VAST. You can't actually get the VAST edition without going into space.
No, the VAST edition is for VAST astronauts and team members only.
Yes.
But the blue edition is...
so, Chris, if we put in 35 million each, can we? I take. You could have my bottom half and your top half. Like we could maybe get there in a syndicate, but like it's about 70 million to get in the vast program.
I'm not sure 70 million is quite going to cut it, but it's a start, I guess.
That's what he told me. Any message for the people about the year ahead? Is there more stuff
No,
coming?
I just think it's an amazing year celebrating 20 years of Le Petit Prince. We haven't spoken about as well, the Perpetual Calendar, the venture. I think there's something for everybody this year, but it's really nicely consistent under this topic of human spaceflight and space exploration. So come and see us wherever you are in the world. Looking forward to showing it all to you. Thank you.
Thanks for watching Time+Tide. Subscribe and like and all that stuff. And thank you, Chris.
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you.
Good man.